So now, let's explain. The flex display turns an element into a flex container. Let us do that. Now, what does flexbox allow you to do? Right? What does it help you do? Look at it. It says, first of all, it controls the what? The layout direction. That's one thing I need to understand. Control the layout. What is the layout direction? The layout direction can either be in what? Row or in column. Everybody is here. Let me give everybody time. Let me give everybody time so that nobody misses anything. Are we done? Okay. Now, what does this flex help you do? What does this flex box element help you do? First of all, this is very important. You need to understand. It controls the layout direction. The first is row. The second is column. What is row? I think it's been about physics, vertical and horizontal line. So I think vertical is like this, then horizontal is like this, right? Good. So now, what do we talk about vertical, right? We're talking about lines like this, your row, vertical lines. Then horizontal line is probably something like this. You understand? Straight line, then vertical is the normal should I say resting line? You understand now? That is what your flex box does for you. So again, first of all, it controls the layout direction. It can either be what row or it is in what is in column. Exactly as well now. Now that's the first thing. Second thing is that it helps you align elements easily. So I can align my elements. Maybe I'm putting one at the top, putting one at the left, putting one at the right. Looking at this now, this is a very good example of aligning. All of these elements are aligned to the center. If you notice, they are on the same line. Can you see it? On the same line. I want you to look at the arrangement here. Can you see that all aligned to the center? That's alignment. Not that you see that this one here will come up a little bit like this. No. Or it will come down a little bit. They are all aligned to the center. You understand alignment? So all of these are what you can buy that make your website look good. You understand now? That is what your Flexbox will do for you. Now, the third one is what? It manages space between elements. Now, this is a very important thing also. Look at this element here. These two elements are probably together. Can you see that there's a space here? And there's also an equal amount of space here. Yes, what we do. Now, the fourth is that what? It overrides the natural flow of elements. I think I've explained this before. You have your block and inline, right? You have block elements will make everything on a straight line. It doesn't allow any other element to appear beside it. But when you use flex here, it changed your H1. You understand it now? So now you have two H1s on the same line, which before we thought was impossible. You understand? That's what flex helps you. Now, we're talking about some flex properties. And with your flex property, I will try as much as possible to create, let's recreate something like this. Something that, this thing that you can see, we'll try and recreate it with CSS. Now, but first of all, let's talk about some flex elements that that we have to like know. Now, the first flex element I'll be talking about should be flex. That's the first element I'll be talking about. Then we'll talk about flex direction also. Flex direction, right? Then moving on, we'll talk about align items, right? Then moving on, we'll talk about justify content. Talk about gap also. I think there's one more. I'm trying to remember. Let me just check it. So flex direction and align item. Just I think that's all. Gap. All right, I think that's all. So now these are the 5 elements that we will be talking about. So we're talking about 5 elements in we talk about flex wrap also. Okay, let's talk about this first. All right, now we're talking about these 5 elements right here. Now, the first thing that I need you to know is that, again, your flex is what? What's your flex? What does the flex do? Okay, let me leave that. What does display do? Let me know if everybody's listening. No, that's CSS. You have to use this thing for me. What is display? What does display do? I need to know if everybody's listening. Do you want to help us out? I don't. You're not listening. Okay. Sorry. Yes. Yes. Everything about CSS gives more feature. Okay. So when it does something, okay. Please go ahead. Sorry, can I come again? I didn't hear you. Mm-hmm. So you can say that it controls the layout or controls alignment, right? Good. Now, I want another person to tell me what position does. Who wants to help us? I said position this morning, so I think we should be able to do that. Anybody online, of course, it's not supposed to be only the people in class. Mr. Shegun, Mr. Pius, Mr. Kelvin, and Mr. Vincent. I will always remember. Yeah, please help us. Yeah, Mr. Pius, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. If you are speaking, you are. I think you are. He's not muted actually. Okay, you are unmuted. Sorry, you are muted rather. I can hear you now.
My understanding, I think CSS controls how an element is placed in the document.
Can someone just probably increase their volume just to like be sure? Can you hear me? All right, but that means yeah. All right, so let's move on. You said you dropped something on the chat. Okay. Okay. Yes. So position helps to move elements around. Okay. Good. Exactly. So now this is basically what your position is. Position helps you in moving element around. Now, why did I ask? Why did I ask this question? I asked this question because now what we want to do is that we want to recreate something like this, right? And for us to like recreate something like this, we need to understand how all of this concept works, how what's the name, display works, the concept of display works. Now, the first thing that you need to is before writing code at all. I do tell people before writing code at all, visualize it, look at what you want to do. First of all, what exactly are we trying to recreate? We're trying to recreate this particular bar that is at the top here, right? Back to courses, front-end engineering 2026 batch A, curriculum settings pricing, frequently asked questions, notice, published and view, right? This is everything I want to do. So picture it first of all and think about the structure in HTML. Before writing any code at all, before writing anything, look at it, picture it. You know, I'm not just here to like teach you how to write. No, you need to know how to write codes the right way. Now, after picturing it, what do you think the structure is going to be in CSS, in HTML rather? Look at it clearly. I'm going to ask everybody, except from this time. So look at it. I already explained what structure is in HTML. What do you think the initial structure is going to be? Do you know someone about what I mean by structure? Okay. You understand that? Okay, good. I'm coming, I'll explain it. Do you understand it? Good. So I'll ask the two of you that understand it first. So what do you mean by structure? Let me start with Ms. Firo. Ladies first. Ladies first. So go ahead, please. Yeah. Yeah. Good. So do you have a structure in mind? Look at it, think about it. You have a structure in mind. Now what is your structure? One. No. Again, structure is different from element. What is the structure? So for instance, now, if you come into Tech Edu, what structure of Tech Edu? First of all, you see the reception. You come in, you have two classes. So they have how many classrooms? You have how many medicine? Three. Okay, plus the manager of it, that's four. You understand now? So that is the structure. Now, if you look at this place right now, what are the major components of that number? Yes. Oh, and that. I just explained something like that. Okay, go ahead. Okay, let me help us out. Let me help us out. So we all tried. But the next time I ask this question, I will never help us out. So what I say, I'm saying that you have a structure, you have a number. In that number, okay. All right, moving on. Now I'm saying that you have a number, right? A back to courses, front end engineering, blah blah blah, up until you, right? Now in that number, you have structures here. Now, what makes up this number? First, back to courses, front-end engineering batch A, curriculum settings, pricing, frequently asked questions and notice, right? They have published and view. But there is something you know that you also notice here. They are all grouped. Have you noticed it? Wait, can you see what I'm saying? Or it's only me that is saying it? They are all grouped. What do I mean about they are all grouped? Front-end engineering batch A and back courses are in one group, together with this back logo. Curriculum settings, pricing, frequently asked questions are in another group. That's how many? 2. Then publish and view are in another group. That's how many? 3. Sections, structures. Manager's office and reception, one group. Another group. Then the big class, another group. Do you understand it now? Like, that is one thing that you need to first of all put in mind before writing any code, so that you can get your HTML structure correct. If I ask you, looking at this place now, okay, I think this is going to be a little bit of a little bit hard for you to get, but let's leave this one. Let me look for another example so that you can probably solve. So, okay, good. I think this should be a perfect example. Now, before writing any code at all, like I said, you need to get your structures correct. Now, you already know that in this nav bar, the nav bar is the parent div, right? The nav tag is going to be your parent, where all of these are going to be. But inside of the nav, you now have 3 main structures. First is the div with this one. Second is the links that are here. And the third is going to be our published and view. Is it clear to you now? And that is basically what it is. So if I want to go ahead and do this now, all I have to do is come to my my body and have nav, right? You can use nav, you can use div, but nav is a semantic that I'm going to use this. Now, in the nav, I have how many structures? 3. Do you get it? You're not getting it. Okay, now, you know what? Let me use div. I explained div in our last class, Abby. I'll use div. Div and nav, almost no difference. Just that nav is like a much more. So when we talk about semantic tags, we're talking about something that has more meaning. So if you see nav, navigation, you say, okay, navigation means, okay, this is your nav bar. But if you hear div doesn't really mean anything. You understand? That's what semantic tags does for you. But let's use div. Now, in this particular div tag, I'm going to give it a class name and call it nav, so that it is more. Let's call it nav. All right. So now, how many tags, how many structures do I say you have there? 3, right? First is what the text that has the back to portion and content engineering batch. Second is what the links, curriculum, services, frequently asked questions and notice. The third is what the button, which is what published and view. So I have to have 3 different divs. The first is going to be my word. So let's call this class of text. So let's do text, right? Second one. Now, please note that I'm not putting them in the same distance. Can you see it? Check it out. This is my first div. You know, let me go ahead and write the second div. Now, this is the second div. Now, this second is going to have a class of what? Links. Now, the third one is not going to be what? For, let's just say, buttons. I'm going to call it BTN just to shorten it. Now, I need you to note the way I did this. I'm going to increase my distance. So now, look at it. There is a parent div that has all of it together. Then in that parent div, in that parent div, you now have 3 separate sections. One for the text, one for the links, and one for the buttons. Now, if you want to write that front end batch A, it goes into the word text. If you want to write for the links, it goes into the word links. If you want to write for that publisher, it goes into the button. That's how you structure. You understand it now? Please go ahead. You see? That's why, if you notice, I'm using class names. So use your class names. Yeah, you can, and you can see it now. No, if you want to start with this class name of nav, now how would you start? .nav. So it is never going to clash with nav. Let me show you. Nav and .nav are not the same. One is an element, one is a tag, one is a what? Class name. Anything that has dot here. But what am I even saying? See, div, right? and .div are two different things. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Anything that has a dot at the beginning is already a class name, not a tag name. So classes, when you say class names, right? Class names are those attributes of names given to an element to like mean something else. So what am I saying? I've already gone into something else. You have three twins. So there's something like three twins. You have triplets, right? Let's say you have triplets. So I don't think, is there anything like identical triplet? I've not seen identical triplet. Those identical twins. Okay, let's use twins. You have identical twins, right? Now, how do you differentiate between those two twins? So in Yoruba, they call them Taya and Kende, right? I don't know other language, but I know Yoruba very well because I'm Yoruba. Taya and Kende. Now, but both of them are twins, right? It's the same thing with this one. You have two divs, but you need to be able to differentiate between those two divs. Your class name is like your Taya and Kende. Do you understand now? That's basically what your class name does. Your class names are basically going to say, okay, we need to have like a name for this particular div so that when I'm styling in CSS, I cannot have a word. I cannot have another way of styling them. Now, that's what I'm saying, that when you have div right here, it is different from what .div. .div is a way of what calling a class name. What div is a way of calling a what tag name. Tag names and class names are not the same thing. Tag and classes are not the same thing. Classes are attributes used inside of a tag. Your div is a what? What's your div? Good. What's your class here? If I change it to div now, and I want to access this in this place, how will I access it? In my CSS. How do you access class names in CSS? Let me start with that question. No, that's ID. So, dot, you understand it now. So this is a class name, while this is a what? Tag name. They are two different things. So yes, they can have the same spelling, but they will never give you the same result. If you start them different. Do you get it? Now that's what I'm trying to say. So do not confuse it. And I don't think there's any reason why you should not come here and ask people when you're trying to like run away from having, all of these things. So you can just give it any class name that you want to see. All right, so moving on. First of all, you have your what? Div, the parent div. And instead of the parent div, you now have three divs of what? Text, links, and what buttons. Now, let us continue. But before we continue, do we understand this? Mr. Pius, Mr. Kelvin, Mr. Vincent, please give me a thumbs up if you understand it. Don't also give me a thumbs down, or just unmute and let me know if you understand it. Okay, so it looks like everybody understands it. Mr. Pius, is it clear to you?
Yes, it is. My this is not working.
Sir?
It is clear. It is clear.
Okay, all right. I'm moving on now. Let us move on to imputing all of these things inside of our HTML. Now, the first is back to courses. Now, this is an icon here, right? This icon that is here, I won't actually do much on it, but the reason is because if I start doing this now, you will have probably have like some issues that I don't want you to have yet. So let us leave it for now. So now, next one is back to courses. So we'll talk about back to courses. How are we going to integrate back to courses? Now, all we can do is we can use a small tag. That back to courses is very, very small, right? We can use a small tag here. All I have to do is say small tag, and like I say, back to courses. Yes, they are inline elements, but you can use, doesn't mean you cannot use it. You can still use it. Now, and the next one is your front-end engineering batch A. So let me just use a P tag for this. Front-end engineering 2026 batch. Yeah, I'm going to copy it and paste. So I don't have to write it again. So I'm going to use, but let me use a span tag instead for this. Now, we've been able to fill up the first part, which is the text, right? So moving on, we are going to move on to the links. Now, these links are, how many links do we have here? So we have a curriculum, settings, pricing, frequently asked questions, and notes. That's 5. So I'm just going to write 5 A tags, and I'm going to duplicate. Let me just use hash. I'm going to duplicate it 5 times. Now, first one is what? Curriculum, right? Curriculum, right? The next one is what? Services, settings. Yeah, settings, pricing. Okay, settings. Next one is should be pricing. Then should have frequently asked questions. Just write FAQ. Then we're gonna have notice, right? As the last. So now if you check it out now, let's try it. Okay, I think we went off the last time. So let me go live now. And let's see what we have so far. So it's gonna look nothing like it. It's going to just be it's gonna be very difficult, but don't worry, we'll get to styling CSS very soon. Now we've been able to do all of this. Now as you can see, your back cost is small, just as we wanted it to be. Now the next is going to be the what? Published and view, right? So now one thing about this published and view, no, let's just leave it like that. We have 2 buttons, right? The first is going to be published, second is going to be view. So all I have to do is come to this and I can say button, right? I can call this published, right? Then I can call this second one button to be what? View. Now, in this class name, I'm just going to give it a class of pub because they are styled differently. If you notice, let's look at it. This one has a background of blue, this one has a background of what? Gray. But when you over on it, right? So we have to like give it a class. Okay, no, let's give it an ID instead. Let's follow the best practices. ID of pub, this should have an ID of what? View. Right? Now, let's get to styling. Okay, you have a question. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry? Can you come again? Yeah. Oh, the anchor tag. Okay, so have we gotten to links on the HTML? Okay, that's the problem. So now, when we talk about links, right, we are talking about linking from one page to another. Now, the page can either be, let me just give you links once and for all. Please listen to this. When we talk about links, right, we're talking about linking from one page to another. Now, that page can either be external or internal. What do I mean by external? If you are linking to facebook.com now, that means it has to take you from your website to where? Facebook. Is that internal or external? Good. But if you are linking from home to about on your that same website, is that internal or external? Do you understand it now? Now that's what your link tag will help you do. Now in links, you have 2 types of link tags. You have your link tag and then you have your what? Anchor tag. Right? Your anchor tag is denoted with A. That's why when I just wrote A, now let me just give you like the basic structure of your anchor tag. So this is how your anchor tag is. That's your A tag. Then it's going to have like an href attribute. You know what the attributes are? Good. Your href attribute. Then instead of your href attribute, you're not going to have the link to where you're trying to link to, right? And then it closes it up for you. Do you understand it now? Now that is why it is like this. Don't worry, it's not hard. Just get this. So now, let's say you want to link to Facebook. It is not inside of this href. You now put a link to Facebook. So I can now say https facebook.com. Do you understand now? And I can go ahead and put Facebook there because if I don't write Facebook here, it's not going to show. And if what you're trying to link to does not show, no link will happen. No linking will happen. So now it is going to work. Now I've been able to link to where Facebook. But in this case now, we are trying to link to where internal. But for me to link, I have to create curriculum page, create settings page. I feel like that's a long time. So that's why I just put Ash here. But if I created curriculum, right, .html, what will be here? Curriculum dot what? HTML. So I can have curriculum or curriculum rather .html. You understand? If that was internal, but since I do not have that, I just put Ash here so that we waste our time. Is it clear to you? Now that is one thing about link tags. So you can just go ahead and still try and work on it. So moving on now. We've been able to get our HTML structure. Trust me, this is all the HTML structure that we need. If you now go ahead and now say, okay, you want to like change some things and you now break it, okay, well, that's your bug to solve. But for now, this is basically one thing about your HTML. All you have to do, first of all, have that structure in your head, then go ahead and structure it out. Now, HTML does not take anything. In fact, the reason why I took this long is because I was trying to explain. It is very easy to structure. Just visualize it first, then put it in section. In fact, use a sheet of paper. Put it in sections. Okay, this particular place is here. This one is at the middle. This one is here. It makes it easier for you for writing code. So there was a video I made about 2-3 months ago where I was saying that before you start writing code, you need to like first of all have a structure. You don't write code anyhow. You have a structure first for writing code. Because once you jump into writing code, that's like most of the times you fail. That process is going to fail. You have to start again. You understand? So you have to like have a structure first. Okay, moving on. Now, the next thing that we'll be talking about now is how do we style this up? Now, if you've noticed, what exactly are we styling up? This OD, right? That's what we want to style. So what is the class name of that div? Now, good. So we're not going to have now. So this is what we want to first style. So let me remove that one first. Now, what is the difference between their number and our number? What's the difference? Everything, Abby. Everything is different. But exactly inline, good. One that's that's a very valid point. And you are saying that what they are on top of each other, right? Then you said something also, Mr. David. The arrangement, Abby. Okay. Now, that's the first thing. There's another thing there. There are a lot of things that are different. A lot. Should I split my screen so you see it? Good. So one thing that we need to do again, always jot things down. So now, first of all, arrangement. We need to work on the word arrangement, right? Arrangement. It's not stupid, don't worry, but go on. Yes. You can. You can. You can actually. In fact, I prefer you jotting it down here. So to use your comments, just do control question mark and then write whatever it is you want to write. But make sure that it is always in between this what's the name? Syntax. So all you have to do is do control question mark together or control forward slash together and then write whatever it is you want to write. All right, moving on. So now the first thing I say is the arrangement, right? Okay, arrange. Is there a? I don't know. Pardon me if this like this happen or with the E. With the E is correct. Okay, thank you very much. I'm into tech. I'm not into English. So all right, that's it. Arrangement. So now the next one that we're working on is the background color. So we're gonna have a background, right? Background color. Because if you look at it, this background here has what? There's a background color of what? Probably dark blue or so. I'm not sure about this color. Exactly. So then after that, we have to work on the buttons too. Buttons. You understand it now? So now the first thing that we're working on now is the arrangement. Let's work on the arrangement. Now, first of all, you need to change this arrangement of block or on top of each other to what? Inline or side by side. And one thing that helps you do this is what? Flex. So when you use flex, right? Let me see if I'm still recording. I hope I'm still recording. Yeah, I'm still recording. Good. Whenever you use flex, what happens is that flex automatically helps you change the natural arrangement, of certain elements. So now, what are we trying to change this owner from? We're trying to change it from what to where? From inline to where? Sorry, from block to inline. So all you have to do is give it a display of what? Flex. Display of, what? Before we do that. Now, what direction is, we'll talk about flex and then we'll talk about flex direction. Let me just remove this. Now, I want you to note something. I told you that your flex is in two major directions. What are those two directions? Row and column, right? Row is on a straight line, column is on top of each other. Good. Now, if you're going to do, if we want to do something like this now, your nav has to be in what direction? Row, right? It has to be in row because they have to be side by side. Now, that is what flex direction is. Flex direction is saying that, okay, I need to take a particular element from a direction of row to column. You understand now? But one thing about flex properties is that they will not work until you've given that element a display of what? Flex. What am I saying? If I go ahead and I give this flex direction of what? Let's give flex direction of row. Yes, you've changed the direction to row, Abby. The flex direction to row, right? But because you've not first specified that, oh, I want this thing to be what? A flex property. Change it to a flex box container. It is not going to work. So what you need to do is, first of all, give it a display of what? Display of flex. And then automatically, this your flex direction of row is not going to work. It's not going to work out. So if you check it out now, you now have them side by side. So let's the system. I wish it's correct. Oh, thank you very much. Dot now. You see, nav and dot now are not the same thing. Thank you very much for that. Now, as you can see, they are now side by side rather than on top of each other. That's the first thing. That's the first step. So right now we now have a balanced row arrangement. Now that is what flex direction does for you. Now if I say flex direction of colon, I change it to what? Colon. Okay. If I change it to colon, what will you have? Is it CLOUMN? Yeah. Colon. If you check it out now, what you're gonna have now is going to be on top of each other. That's what colon does. Now, I'm using is it one stone to kill two birds now? In flex direction, you have four directions. You have two directions rather. You have row, and then you have what? Column. Row is straight line, column is on top of each other. Right? Now, from this row and column, you now have two child under it. You now have row reverse and column reverse. Who can guess what this does? I think the English is very, very. The English is what it does. So, if we have row, like it's on a straight line. What does row reverse does? Row reverse still makes them be on a straight line, but in this case, it reverses the elements. So, what am I saying? If I use row reverse here now, what happens is that front end engineering. If I use row reverse here now, let me just show you. So let's use row first. Oh, use row. So row. Now, what happens here is that back to courses becomes the last, while view and publish becomes the first. So now let's try it out. So if I say row reverse, right, and you check it out, what do you have? Now, as you can see, published view is now the first, and then front end engine and back to course becomes the last. But if you notice what happened, they moved it from here to here. That's what row reverse is going to do for you. Now, if you check column reverse also is similar, but in this case, it's just stays in that front, but then it just reverses the whole stuff. So comes back here. But as you can see, what's coming first now? Published and view. As opposed to before that we had published and view down. But now published and view is down up. That's what column refers to. Now you can just go ahead and check that on your own. This is very, very easy. One thing that I need you to get is what? I need you to understand what row is. If you can understand what row and column is, you can get column reverse and row reverse yourself. How this is clear to everybody? All right, good. So I think flex is easy now. We are finding it easy. Everybody just flying. Everybody understands it sharp. So it's something that I can just give one assignment or probably one project for us to do. I've been Mr. David. I'll be the back end tutor giving you assignment. All right, so that is one thing about flex direction. Now, as you can see, you have this, but it is not quite, they're not really the same if you look at it. Can we check it out? First of all, our own is too packed to one side. There's no space between it. Now, if you look at this one is arranged to the left, middle, and right. It looks better. But this one is just packed to one side. No, doesn't really make any sense. So how do we do this? Now, the way you do this is by using what? Justify content. Now, I'm going to use our material as to explain what justify content is. Now, justify content controls the alignment and spacing along the main axis. This English is big. Basically, what it does is that what? It distributes not equal space. Leave this equal is because of this space between. But it distributes space between elements. Leave the equal, I'll come back to that equal. Now, what it does is that what? It distributes spaces in between your elements. So it controls if you're going to have space in your element or not. Now, look at this here. There's a space between, this is element A, right? This is element B and this is element C. The amount of space between elements A and B are equal. And then if you check this space, there are no spaces here. This space that you are seeing here is just for margin and padding. If there is no space there, if you remove the padding now, you will not see space there again. But the only place that you have space is where? Here and here. You understand now? That is what your justified content will do for you. Now, how do we get all of these things in justified content? Now, justified content have 4 major properties. Coming. Justified content has 4 major properties. The first property is your what? Space between. Second property is your space around. Third property is your space evenly. And the last property is your what? Is your center. Now we'll use this thing one by one, and I want you to tell me what you observe in all of this justified content properties. Now, how do you use your justified content? Justify content. Yes, justify content. All you have to do is come to the element you want to keep this. Then I say justify content. We're going to say justify content. So if I say space between, I want you to tell me what you observe in this space. What do you observe? So now the space in between the element, that's why I say space between. Space in between the element. That's why I say that there is no spaces outside. Again, this is what now let me remove that margin and padding. I think anytime you open up a new page or a new file, the body automatically give you automatic margin and padding. So let's remove it. Margin of 0, padding of 0. Now let us check it out. So now, as you can see, there's no more space. Okay, just 1 minute. Now, if you check space between now, as you can see, you have spaces in between it. And that's what space between does. Do you understand it now? Please go ahead. 5 minutes. Okay. Macro. Okay. Mm. What tag? Yeah, this nav is the parent tag. You understand? So Or the other tags are inside of the nav. So that's where it affected all of them. Please, those online, are you following, please? I need to know if everybody's following so that I'm not just, I don't just think I'm building something and then nobody's following. Mr. Kelvin is following. Mr. Pius, Mr. Vincent, and Mr. Shebu. Are you following, please? Okay. Sometimes I don't know, this thumbs up is like, used to deceive me small. Are you sure that you are following? If you are following, please just try and unmute and let me know.
I'm following.
Okay.
I am following.
All right. So good. So that means, okay, Mr. Vincent, maybe Mr. Vincent is not here, but you can also give me a thumbs up. So that's also fine. Okay. All right. Moving on now. We understand space between now. The next one is to talk about space around. What does space around is? If I change this from space between to space around, again, what do you notice? What do you notice? When I give you space around, something happens. Now, there are spaces here, there are spaces here. Now, there's not a space here, there's not a space here. But one thing that you need to know is that the amount of space here and here are equal. But they are not equal to the amount of space here and here. This is what space around is saying. This place and this place are equal. This place and this place are equal, but they are not equal to each other. Like what I'm saying is that the one in between is not equal to the one outside. Exactly, more like rectangle. Let's use rectangle. So rectangle is saying that what the two opposite sides are equal, right? But alternate, is it alternate? I've actually forgotten what to say. But they are not equal. You understand what I'm trying to say? That is what rectangle, like that's what this particular thing is saying. Your space around and then your space between is saying that okay, space is saying that the amount of spaces inside are equal and there are no spaces outside. But space around still giving spaces outside, but the only the like left side and the right side are equal, and the ones in between are not equal. Now, the third one, which is your space evenly, now says that okay, everything now has what equal amount of spaces. So if you check it out now, this, they are all equal, the same. Now, space between, space evenly, space around. Do you understand those three? Now, the last one is going to be what? Center. So let's talk about center. So center basically just centralizes your elements to the middle. So just giving it space on the left and on the right. But now, if you look at this place, what element did they use? Are you sure? Are you sure there's space between? So is this space between or space around or both? Space between and space around. So how do you do it? Let me get this correctly. Your answer is space between and space around. Your answer is space between. Mr. David, what's the answer? Space around and space between. Which one? Again, I want to know. This there is no space between here and here. This is just your padding. So the only space you have is here. So if you have something like that, what we just explain, what would you use in getting this justified? Okay, no space around again, just space between. Are you sure? Are you sure about space between? I like your confidence. Okay, yes, space between. That's what we are going to be using. So space between is going to be our go-to property for this place. So I'm going to say space between. So now if you check it out now, you should have something similar, not too similar because of, but similar. Now, one thing that we can also do, we've gotten everything I want. Although not quite, but okay. But we've gotten some of the things that we want at the moment. So okay, yeah, that's true. I should actually give everybody time to write. You know what? Let me pause the recording here. So by the time we come back, I will give us time to we'll talk about the other functionalities that I want to implement.